You've talked about it with Red Cross veterans also, about what a mistake that was. And just like you said, Alice, you've been kind of paying for it ever since.
Yeah. But let me say this. On tour 1, I never saw a donut the whole darn year I was there. Come to think of it, I'm not sure I even saw the one on tour 2. So, the thing is a little bit inflated.
Where were you? What was your first tour?
My first tour, I was in Cameron and then in Da Nang.
Okay, and then what were you were a field director in each place?
No, I was SRAO in Cameron when I on tour 1.
Oh, you meant literally you never saw a donut. I'm with you there.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, I never saw a donut either. Nope.
Ellie, are we live on Facebook?
We are.
We are live on Facebook. Hello, Facebook. We're going to get started in a minute here and let people in and start the program. And I think we're going to start with the question of, did any of these donut dollies ever serve a donut? Jenny, you did. Are you waving to me?
Yeah, she is.
You waving to somebody outside?
You're muted, Jenny. You're muted.
Okay. I served
I got a story about the donuts, but I wouldn't dare tell.
I served donuts at Bow because I had the RON.
Hey, Jenny, can you save it for when we start up? Save it for when we start up. Warren, say hi to Mary and Happy New Year to Mary. She's right there. Hello, Mary. Good to see you.
Music, or are we using the normal music?
No, let's use our normal music.
All right.
All right.
And here we
go. What do you call that in the showbiz, Sean?
False start.
False start. False start. All right. What a motley crew. This is great. Hello, Rick. Hello, Donut Dollies. Hey, Chad. Larry. Lori Pearl. I'm glad you joined us. Mary, hi. I've forgiven you for what you said about the Steelers. Good to see you all. Good to see you all. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our part 2 of our Veterans Breakfast Club Live Happy Hour. This is part 2 of our conversation with ARCOA, the American Red Cross Overseas Association, with a lot of former donut dollies with us. And we won't get into the whole name donut dolly and whether we like it or not, whether it's demeaning or not, because I will be in a strong minority with whatever I say. And then we also have Kelly Crager here again from Texas Tech University's Vietnam Center and Archive. Hello, Kelly. How are you?
I'm doing fine today, Todd. Thank you.
I was going through YouTube and somehow, you know how you fear that like your smart devices in your home are spying on you? I believe that it's been spying on me because I opened up YouTube and I got suggested a video of the snow in Lubbock from the other day.
It's listening.
I think it's listening to my conversations.
Yep.
How many inches of snow did you get in Lubbock, Texas?
We got around 4 inches here at our place. I think in town they got around 6 inches or so. So it was enough to mess things up for a few days.
Okay. So it shuts things down in Lubbock for a while and then.
Yeah, we learned our lesson years ago. Just stay at home. You don't kill anybody.
Right. Very good. Well, thanks for joining us today. And Kelly will be talking again about his work that he does and the wonderful interviews that he's done with the oral history program at the Vietnam Center and Archive. But first, I know we have quite a few people here who haven't joined our programs before. So I want to introduce myself. My name is Todd DiPastino. I'm not a veteran. I'm trained as an academic historian, but 13 years ago, I started working with this group of veterans. And we ended up calling it the Veterans Breakfast Club, just getting together and having the vets share their stories. It started with World War II veterans, but over the past 13 years, it's expanded to all veterans, all eras, all branches of service. And I, a couple things. so I'm not a veteran, but I just listen to stories. We encourage veterans to share their stories. And this is located in Western Pennsylvania where I am. And we have normally have in-person face-to-face events where veterans come and share their stories. Of course, for the past year, we've been doing this virtually online. And it's been wonderful kind of gathering people from around the country and really around the world to share their stories. And as a non-veteran, I learn something new every day. And also as a non-veteran, I always, Sean Hall, our director of programming. Hello, Sean.
Hi.
And Ellie, who is our engineering this program here from Chicago. We talk every once in a while about, boy, what would you do in that situation? Or, could you have handled Vietnam? What branch of service would you want to be in? And I kind of go back and forth about like what branch of service I want to be in. But I think last week's program settled it for me. I think I would have wanted to be a donut dolly.
There you go.
I'm not joking about that because it looks like you were bringing fun and games to, people who are in a tough, very tough situation. And I thought like, yeah, that's something I could do. That's something I probably wouldn't have screwed up too badly. But apart from the donut dollies, my favorite branch of service is the Marine Corps. And I just have to be upfront about that. I will just say that up front. Do we have any Marines here today on the Zoom side? Oh, we don't. Oh, then I didn't have to say that.
Well, that's fine. That's fine.
Oh, well, that's okay. And I'm saying this because, well, if I butter somebody up like that, something else is coming down the road. So we have a little game that we're going to play, and the Marines are going to be the kind of target of the game. But let me also introduce our COA. We have Ginny. I won't make you talk, but we have Ginny Close here, who is the editor of the ARCOA's Overseer, which is the newsletter. And this event is really her brainchild. She had the great idea to bring us together to do this. And we also have Betsy Tanner, who's the president of the American Red Cross Overseas Association. Betsy, good to see you. And
Yes, we have at least two former presidents here too.
Two former presidents too. And do you know what?
Debbie, go ahead.
Who is it?
Debbie Griffith McSwain and Doris Hecht Easton.
Okay. Doris and Debbie. And I do have I have a photo of Betsy. Let's see, I'm going to share. I'm hoping that this is a game, Betsy. This is you on the left, correct?
Yes, me on the left. It's Linda Sullivan Schulte on the right. Linda Schulte Sullivan on the right.
Okay.
I don't remember that game.
Yeah, is this a wounded soldier or is it a game?
I must be a game, although it certainly looks like medical kind of. This is the bandana that you can't peek around.
I was going to say this is when they were blindfolding people, only you didn't have anything to blindfold them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw this and thought, I hope this is a game, and I hope you're not. I mean, even the soldier behind is grinning. I don't think you'd all be grinning if this weren't a game, right?
Right, that's true, yeah.
Okay. So there you are. You are supporting the 101st Airborne Division. And then here's another great picture of you. You're on the left in the Santa Claus outfit, Christmas 1968.
I think with her back to me is Tara from Nevada and Pam, the blonde, from Georgia, Atlanta area.
I was hoping Steve Foreman or Fred Harkey, who are two veterans of the 9th Infantry Division, who traveled back with us 2018 and also last year, 2020, to Vietnam. They're veterans of the 9th Infantry Division. I'd hope that they were here today and maybe they remembered this, but I don't think they're in the Zoom room here with us. So Betsy, do you want to tell us a little bit about ARCOA and what you do and who could be a member?
Yes, it's an association of people who worked with the American Red Cross overseas. You could be a volunteer, you could have been a paid employee. We have conventions every year, although we didn't this year. We do given a humanitarian award to some, it's not for a member, it's for somebody who is doing good work in the world today. We would welcome anyone who has been with the Red Cross overseas as a volunteer or is paid to join our association. We have a good time getting together at our conventions, and we have a website, ARCOA. It's ARCOA, stands for the American Red Cross Overseas Association. ARCOA.org is our website.
Do you have a men's auxiliary?
We have associate members.
Okay, okay.
So you would be welcome, Todd, to join us.
Excellent. That's what I'm asking. This is finally a branch of service I could feel I could join.
Jack is on here today. He's an associate member.
Okay. Excellent. And if do any other past presidents want to say anything, feel free to speak up.
Doris?
They're muted.
Hey, hey, Doris.
Just that while right now our majority is Vietnam era, going forward, Desert Storm, Iraqi freedom, and peacetime as well. It was founded by those returning from World War II who served with the Red Cross and wanted to maintain contact. And the associate membership are for those who support what the Red Cross has done to help support the military.
And let me ask, how many donut dollies do we have here on the program? You could just wave your hand just so we could get a sense.
This is Evelyn in Australia.
This is nice.
Oh, hi, Abby. It's Debbie.
Hi. Yeah.
This is great. Okay, now that before we get started, I wanted to ask one. Yes, I'm sorry, I talked over you.
I think we have about 20 members, ARCOA members on here.
Oh, this is terrific. Absolutely terrific.
Not just ARCOA members, but also other miscellaneous ones from the email group.
Okay, great. Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. And please feel free, anybody who's here, especially on the Zoom side, to put a comment in the chat or a question in the chat. If you want to say something, you could raise your hand by clicking the little hand raising thing on Zoom, or by raising your hand, and Sean or Ellie will let me know that you want to say something, or just put it in the chat. Hey, I want to talk about this, or make a comment. That's how we got into the whole debate about Donut Dollies, the name last time, because Sharon put a comment in the chat. Okay, let me ask you this. Did any of you who served as Donut Dollies ever actually serve donuts?
Nope.
Nope.
Nope. Yes, absolutely.
All right.
They must be from Korea.
I'm from Korea. Yes, that's where I served.
In Korea, you served donuts.
Yes. Every time we had Korean bakers, we would take out donuts and serve them to the troops. They loved it. Plus the games.
And when were you in Korea?
I was a donut dolly.
When?
1964 to 66.
And what is your name?
Candy Casarella, Carolyn Casarella.
Okay, Candy. Okay, Casarella. Thank you for joining us, Candy. Jenny Young.
Yes.
Did you serve donuts?
Yes, and I got tear gas doing it.
They were that bad?
No. Actually, real quick, I was brand new in country the night before Thanksgiving, had to remain overnight at Bowlock, and all the electricity, all the generator power was in the mess hooch for preparing the Thanksgiving meal. So they told the two of us, knowing we'd have to spend the night and it was after dark, do you want to go to the mess hall to just chit chat? Because that's the only place there's any power. So we went down there, and they were cooking, and the sergeant had a tray of donuts and was kind of passing them around. And he said, wait a minute, what's wrong with this picture? and he handed me the tray of donuts. So I proceeded to take it around. And then I remember thinking, boy, that field oven has some strong gas. It burned my eyes, and somebody on the outside, I don't know why, it was CS. And so I'm standing there wondering what's going on. And they said, go outside, face the wind, and let your tears flow. And I said, what is that? And they said, CS. And I said, what's CS? Concentrated stuff. Well, it was definitely concentrated. And we don't know how that happened or if somebody was just playing a joke. That's how I serve donuts.
That's how you serve. That's a good one. Excellent. Oh man. Oh, this is great. Warren Goss is here, and Warren Goss, if you don't know him, he served in for the 4th Infantry Division and the 70th Infantry Division in World War II. He landed on Utah Beach on D-Day. And one thing about there's a kind of parallel with some veterans who really see a lot of combat. I think of Warren. I think of Dan Vaughn, who's with us today, who is a Marine, who served in I Corps. And it just seems like, they were unlucky combatants who rarely had a moment's rest, who rarely had a good day when they were in war. I know, Warren, you were training for D-Day for, months and months at a time, and then you were involved in combat. It seemed like every day. I asked Warren, did you ever see a donut? Did you ever see a donut dolly during World War II? And Warren, you said you did, right? If you could unmute. Why don't you unmute it there, Warren? Okay, there we go.
Is it going to work now, Todd?
It works. It works.
Warren doesn't.
Well, as far as donuts go, I had very little to do with donuts.
Did you ever get a Red Cross donut?
Only when I would steal it.
You stole from the Red Cross.
I'll tell you someday, Todd.
We were talking before we went live here on the Zoom side that the Red Cross the American Red Cross had a terrible reputation among American GIs in World War II. And there were a couple different reasons for that, but the major reason was that in 1942, the American Red Cross, I believe, decided to start charging for donuts. And I think officers tended to get them for free. Enlisted men had to pay for them. And that just, built up a lot of ill will that I know many of you have probably heard about, in subsequent years. I'm wondering, I know we had a Red Cross veteran who kind of knows a lot about this history. Who was just talking about it? Was it Alice? Yeah, Alice, you would get that. You said that you would get comments from people.
Oh, yes. For years after I came back, it just went on and on about coffee and donuts in World War II. For a long time, I carried that Stimson letter around with me and said, here.
Yeah.
So you're referring to a letter from Secretary of War Henry Stimson, who after the war apologized?
Yes, because he was taking responsibility in that letter. And I do have to contact NHQ and find out about it. But it because of the fact that the Red Cross had a great donating public, and the European nations were scraping by, and the gist of the letter said that it was ill-advised for the War Department to ask the Red Cross to charge so that the European societies would not feel so much stress in trying to raise money, since they were the victims of the war.
And Susan Conklin, you said you also talked about that before we went live here on the Zoom side. You know that history too.
I said that I've read books on World War II, and I was a donut dolly in 1968, and we only had Kool-Aid and bad cookies. And I never saw a donut. And we had coffee. And we did have coffee. But in World War II, I was referring to Jane Haley's new book, about the 3 girls in World War II that did the Club Mobile program.
And I would love if Sean or Ellie could find that book, Jane Haley's book.
Well, I have it sitting right on my desk in another room, but I'm trying to think of. You guys keep up. I'm gonna.
Well, yeah, and we'll put the book link, a link to the book in the chat here, because there are quite a few books on the Red Cross.
It's really very clever. I'll be right back.
Okay. We'll just sit here and wait for you.
The Beantown.
We have a new person here who's joining us. Actually, she joined us yesterday morning, but she's joining this conversation, and Kelsey. And I wanted to spotlight her for a while because, as I said yesterday morning at our coffee hour, after 12 or 13 years of working with veterans, I kind of feel like every once in a while, like I've heard it all. Like I've heard every story. How can anybody come up with anything new? And then I get an email.
Most of them know me, Todd. We all know each other. They know what I did.
Yep. I know, but we have some of our veterans here who don't know you, Ann. So Ann sends me an email and says, I was a librarian in Vietnam. Mm-hmm. And I think, oh my gosh, okay, well, this is a new one. Graduated in library science. Bob Dvorak, have you ever heard of a librarian in Vietnam?
Didn't have a very long lifespan.
It was not one of the more, in 1969, it was not one of the more coveted positions. And yet Ann Kelsey, as a recent graduate from the University of California in library science, said like, yeah, I'll serve in libraries in Vietnam. And I just think that's the most interesting thing. And I do want to show, and I'm a bit of an internet creep, so I creeped around and found this photo of you. This is you?
That's me.
Okay, very good. So this is you as a librarian in Vietnam?
Yes, it is.
Did you have to wear a helmet?
I got there.
That's
no,
right.
I scrounged that helmet. They didn't give us any protective gear.
Oh boy. And then I also found this kind of picture. I don't know if it's you, but it was in your scrapbook.
That's me.
That is you. What kind of, did you wear a special uniform?
Yes, that's me the day I left for Vietnam. Yeah, that was the Special Services uniform. The Red Cross uniform was similar, but lighter blue.
But lighter blue. Could you explain to people what the Army Special Services was?
Army Special Services was the Morale and Recreation Division of the Department of the Army, and they ran recreation programs worldwide. So in the States, in Europe, in Asia. And
we were never in any recreation.
They ran service clubs, which were like the Red Cross recreation centers. They had a library program, arts and crafts shops, and they managed the entertainment. That meant they were the ones who escorted the USO shows, and they also had what was called the Soldier Show program. In Vietnam, they brought soldiers out from the field, did auditions, put together rock bands, put together theater performances, and toured them throughout the country where it was too dangerous for the USO shows to go. They also ran the R&R, the Rest and Recreation program. They ran the sports program. They ran the in-country R&R centers.
And what made you, as a, I'm guessing, 22-year-old, college graduate, decide in 1969 to volunteer for Vietnam?
I was at the University of California at the height of the anti-war protests, and I grew up in a family that worked for the military. I lived near a big Air Force base. Most of the guys I knew were military, and I was very upset at how the soldiers and the vets were being treated by the protest movement, which was magnified tenfold on university campuses. So when the recruiters came to the UCLA Library School and said there was a library program in Vietnam, I said yes, signed right up.
Man, you signed right up. Okay, sometimes I project my own thoughts. I'm imagining as a 22-year-old young woman, you probably thought this was going to be a big adventure, and I guess it was a big adventure. Was it what you expected, though?
Well, I guess you could ask that of almost every other woman that's on here. Yeah, it was an adventure. That wasn't why I went. I did want to go to Asia, and I felt like, and that was an added bonus for me because I have a degree in anthropology, and I did a lot of coursework on Asia and Southeast Asia. But I had no idea what to expect, and so I just went like a tabula rasa and just took it day by day.
I'll ask you the same question I asked Ginny last week, and that is, were you ever scared?
No, but that's just because I was stupid.
And that's exactly what Ginny said. Exactly. She was too dumb to be scared. And I think that's something that we hear a lot from our veterans too. They were young and they didn't know what they were getting into. Looking back, I imagine that you're very proud of your year of service in Vietnam. I'm so curious. I have a lot more questions to ask you, and I'd love to have you come back on. But I'm very curious to hear what it was like to come back home as a civilian who, was working with the Army in Vietnam. You come home in 1970. The war is so divisive. Anybody who's serving in Vietnam is getting treated very poorly. And you come home to a kind of country in turmoil. What was it like to come home?
Well, I went as many did. I didn't come straight home. I went to Japan for a month, and when I came home, there were no vestiges of having been in Vietnam or been with the military. I came home in civilian clothes. I came on a flight with dependents from Japan, wives and children. So no one knew. I was not recognized like a lot of the military were as having come from Vietnam. My folks picked me up at LA airport. I saw soldiers being accosted in the airport in San Francisco and LA. Everybody just kind of walked around me, not wanting to say anything or ask anything. I was very uncomfortable. And in fact, a month later, I moved to New York City.
Oh my!
And I didn't say anything to anybody about being in Vietnam. I got a job as a children's librarian in Long Island, public library in Long Island. Nobody had any idea that a 24-year-old doing Eensy Weensy Spider had spent a year in Vietnam. I kept it off my resume. I said I'd worked for the Army, but I didn't say where I had been.
You kept it off your resume?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The only time I had any connection was I had to go to the unemployment office on 23rd Street in Manhattan to collect unemployment before I got a job because I had worked for the Army. So yeah, it was like I was back in Vietnam, me and thousands of GIs standing on the unemployment line.
That is a heartbreaking story.
And I suspect almost every other woman on this call could tell a similar story.
I bet you're right. Bob Dvorak, who's a wonderful author and who's the author of this wonderful book on the 82nd Airborne. Bob is a Army veteran. He's with us here on the Zoom side. Bob asked the question in the chat. He said, what were the popular books checked out in Vietnam?
Books, that they used, that the soldiers were using for homework to get their GEDs or to start college courses. So books to do classwork.
Okay.
Books to learn how to operate the electronics they were buying in the TX. So books about how to use Nikon cameras and how to fiddle with their tape recorders, those kinds of things. History, they were interested in history. Novels were not a big item, unless somebody was taking an English literature class. The magazines, they loved Playboy.
You stocked Playboy in the library.
Oh, absolutely. Every library I worked in the whole 50 years I was in library land, Playboy was absolutely always on the magazine list. And the current newspapers, there was a policy of no censorship. So when Kent State happened, the front page of the New York Times was in my library 2 days later.
And have you ever written a memoir or, articles about your experience?
No books. No, I haven't written a book. Don't intend to. But I
No.
have done an oral history for Texas Tech.
I saw that. Hey, Kelly, did you interview Ann?
No, I did not. It was my predecessor, Steve Maxter.
Did.
Yes, years
Steve
ago.
did before when he first started working there. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, you were number 154, Ann, as I recall.
I was one of the early ones.
You were one of the early ones.
Okay, guys, quit talking to me and talk to the donut dolly.
Okay, I will. Hold on. Now, I just one thing, this whole thing gave me an idea, and it has to do with the Marines. And everybody knows that I love the Marine Corps. They're my favorite branch of service. I know we have at least one Marine here, Dan Vaughn. Dan was in Vietnam. He never got a donut. He never saw a donut dolly. He did see a lot of combat. I think, do we have any other Marines here? Oh, so this is all going to be making fun of Dan. Gus. Oh, Gus, good. Gus Mellis, another Vietnam Marine. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. Let me, this is my idea. I had fun over the holiday with my 2 daughters at home and my wife. We ran across old episodes of Match Game. You guys remember Match Game with Gene Rayburn as the host? Match Game 75. Ellie and Sean, you guys are too young to remember this. Does anybody remember this?
Vaguely.
Oh, yes, of course.
Vaguely? Okay. How do you remember it vaguely? Here it is, the late 70s. It was like Brett Summers and Charles Nelson Riley and Richard Dawson and Betty White. And Gene Rayburn would read like kind of a story or a riddle, and it would end with blank, and you'd have to fill in the blank and then match, who answered the same question, kind of like Family Feud kind of deal. That's how it was. And my thought, I just was thinking like, boy, this would be a fun game to play with the veterans on Zoom. And then, Ann, your service in libraries in Vietnam gave me an idea, because you said when we talked yesterday that your libraries were only open to Army and Air Force, correct?
They were open to all free world forces. So all U.S. military, where U.S. military, Australian, Republic of Korea, Thai. New Zealand.
So did I get this wrong? I heard from yesterday on the program, I thought you said that your libraries were really for Army or Air Force. The Navy went somewhere else. No?
No.
Oh, that blows my whole...
Yeah, no. The library program was started by the Navy. Then the woman who started it moved to the Army when they took over recreation in
Okay, well, I want this gag to work.
But all recreation facilities that the Army ran was open to all free world forces.
I'm guessing that you never got any Marines in your library, though.
No, I did not.
Okay.
The Army, Westmore, they weren't allowing. That's a whole other story I won't get into right now.
They weren't allowing Marines in the library. Okay, that's
they weren't providing services to the Marines.
Okay, that's all I wanted to hear. All right, Gus Mellis and Dan Vaughn. So if you guys are all familiar with Match Game, you'll know that like you ask the question, and here's the question that I come up with. All right, I'm going to give you all a few minutes to answer this. I have my own answer, and let's see if my answer matches anybody else's. Okay. And worked at libraries in Vietnam. Only Army and Air Force used them. The Navy had their own libraries, and Marines didn't use them because they blank. What can you come up with that would be funny? Marines didn't use libraries in Vietnam because they blank.
Couldn't read.
Yeah, take a moment. Hold on a second. Okay, here. This is the music from the. Okay. All right. Here we go. So what answers do we have? Because they couldn't read. I heard that.
Another couldn't read.
Lost their card.
They lost their cards. They couldn't keep track of their library cards. Gus?
We had no time to read. We were real men. We were out there fighting. Trained to kill, not trained to read.
I was going to say because they didn't stock coloring books, but.
Oh! Ding, 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 ding. That was my answer. He didn't have coloring books. And the only reason I'm doing this is because Dan and Gus they can't punch me. Zoom.
Not yet.
They'll punch me
You know
when
where you live. You know where you live.
Very good. All right. So I don't know if that gag was too good, but let's see.
I'd rather be with the donut dollies.
Yes. Yeah, that's why, yeah, the donut dollies, they'll protect me. Let's see who else. Let's see what else do we have here. Andy Niggett, he's not with us. I was hoping he'd be with us, but he's not. Is he? I don't think so. Hey, Ellie, I'm getting some feedback here on my end. I don't know if there's an open mic maybe that you could try and turn off.
Let's try that, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So Andy is not with. Oh, yes, we have Frostbite raising her hand. I can't hear you, Frostbite.
Anyway, my name is Lucy Davidson. Nobody
Lucy.
knows me as Frostbite.
Your nickname is Frostbite?
Yes, but nobody knows me as that. That's the old name when I was ice skating professionally.
You're a professional ice skater.
Way in my youth.
So you were a professional ice skater and then you were a donut dolly?
I was a donut dolly, and then 10 years with donut dollies, and then 20 years with Vietnam and other places with special services. But I'm Lucy, and I'm in Chicago.
And you're in Chicago. And you know what, Lucy? I think I have pictures of you.
You do?
Yeah, because I'm a creep. Here, let me see. Let me see. Here, hold on. I'm going to share my screen here. Here we go. This is you.
Haven't changed a bit.
No, you haven't. Where were you here? Korea?
In Korea, yeah.
And when were you?
Joan Loveridge. Sang on that, yeah.
When were you in Korea?
60 to 61 in this program.
60 to 61. Okay, and you could see it says Clubmobile unit. That's when you were still called Clubmobile.
Right. And when we wore the military uniform, too.
Oh, is this you?
We wore the OGs and fatigues, yeah. Made
Oh,
life
man.
much easier. That's our old unit.
Isn't that neat? Look at those old
Nice
Clubmobiles.
to see.
How cool.
And that was before us. Maybe a couple of years before us.
Okay, how about this? This is a great picture.
This was 65, though, my second tour back in the Seoul office, yeah.
And okay, so this is Seoul, and you can see this guy's the 2nd Infantry Division. There's a sergeant laughing. This is a nice picture. Okay, and that's Jenny. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing a bit of your story there.
Does anybody know how to change that name? I'm brand new getting online to change the frostbite to Lucy. Does anybody know how to do that?
I'm going to do it right now.
Lucie.
Davidson. How about that? Look at that.
Thank you.
Ta-da. You're welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions here for our Donut Dollies? I know we have a lot of photos and a lot of stories, more stories that we'll probably be able to get to tonight. And I do want to have another program soon, maybe even in March or April with Donut Dollies again. Let's ask Kelly. I'm sorry I don't want to forget you. I don't want to forget Kelly Crager from the Vietnam Center and Archive. Kelly, why don't you remind people who are here for the first time, where you work and what you do?
Sure. I run the Oral History Project at the Texas Tech University's Vietnam Center and Archive. And looking on the list of folks who I see popping up here, interviewed a number of you folks. In fact, Sam, I see you on there. Nancy, I'm glad you made it. We haven't talked in a long time. It's only been a couple of days. Gus Mellis, of all people, a Pittsburgher. Gus and I met at a reunion a few years ago, Dido reunion, and Gus went through my evil clutches in an interview as well a number of years ago.
Oh, that's fantastic that you know Gus.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely, delightful gentleman, even for a Marine.
Delightful gentleman. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah. Anyway,
Thank you, Todd.
Yeah, the Vietnam Center and Archive is the country's largest center for the study of the Vietnam War. It's a massive brick and mortar archive in terms of the collections that we have. We collect anything and everything related to the history of the Vietnam War. Personally, I do the oral history interviews. We've got around 1,500 oral history interviews that we've conducted over the years. Donut Dollies this summer and spring, I believe I interviewed 16 different Donut Dollies for the project. I just went on a real long line of there's Joyce Dinky. How about that? Hey, Joyce, how you doing?
Hey, Kelly.
So it was, we've been out doing business out there for over 30 years now. And like I say, it's the country's largest center for the study of the war. All the materials that we have are either online or going to be online eventually. We have a full-time digitization project that gives the world free and open access to all of our holdings, all of our non-copyrighted holdings there, which right now, as I mentioned last week, contains about 30 million pages of documents. We have hundreds of thousands of photographs. We've still got sea rations. We've got combat boots, weapons, 5 helicopters, a collection of Vietnamese pornography that we keep under a lock and key in the cold storage vault. Anything you can imagine someone bringing back from the war. And they wonder, what am I going to do with this stuff? When I'm gone, my kids don't want it. I don't want it to wind up in the bottom of a landfill somewhere. So we're the place for your stuff. Nancy Smoyer last week made a good mention that if you do have things that you're considering donating to us, and we take everything by and large, whether it's photographs or slides or letters home or orders or whatever it might be. But make sure you get in touch with us first before you just mail something to us, because we do have space issues, what we can and cannot accept. Right now, we don't need a 25th poncho liner, but in a few years when we are successful getting our building built with a new museum, we're going to need all the poncho liners we can get. So it's one of those kind of things. So hold on to it until you're ready to get rid of it. And when you're ready to donate it, just mail it out to us and we'll take good care of it. We'll make sure that it's preserved forever in our state-of-the-art archive. It's not something that's going to be tucked away in a box and no one sees again. All of our stuff goes up online unless it's copyrighted. So the world has access to everything that you donate. We also give digital copies back to the original donor. So you won't be without your film, without your photographs for long. It's a long process, but it's something we hope that you will all consider with your Vietnam related stuff. When you're looking for a home for it, keep us in mind. We'll do good things with it. We'll take care of it. And plus, we're just a really good outfit to work with. I think anyone who's worked with us will say that. As far as the oral histories go, I'm doing oral histories every day. I've interviewed many of you who are on the call today, and look forward to getting as many interviews as we can, because let's face it, when you're gone, your story is gone with you and no one has access to it. Researchers don't have access to it. Future students don't have access to it. Friends, and then most importantly, family won't have access to your story. Next generation, when you're no longer around, you can't share your story with anyone. You know, your great grandkids, great great grandkids will never be able to hear it unless you get your story recorded. And obviously, we think you should do it with us. Then 3 and 4 generations from now, someone can push a button and hear you tell your life story through the lens of Vietnam in your own words. It's pretty powerful stuff. And I'm grateful for all of you who have decided to volunteer and again go through my cruel clutches and share your story with me and with the world. I also appreciate being invited back again, Todd, after last time.
Yeah, Kelly, you should really take some public speaking courses. You need to kind of hone your pitch a little bit better. I'm joking because you're such an eloquent spokesperson for the archive and for the importance of oral history. And as Kelly said in his earthy West Texas kind of way the first time we talked, he said, heck, we're all circling the drain. You got to do these interviews before you go down the drain, which I think he means before you pass away. We have let's see here.
I need an interpreter sometime.
Nars, we have Nars Khaliva. Hello, Nars. How are you?
Fine. I just wanted to mention that, the most attractive part of the Red Cross picture for most people in Vietnam were the donut dollies, but I was there in 1967, 68. And at that time in Vietnam, we had about 400 Red Cross workers. Now, of those 400 workers, about 25 or 30 of them were at the headquarters in Saigon, but about 200 of them were with the troops, with the able-bodied units. And that was the branch that I was in. Now, another 100 of those were in the service and military hospitals. So we had professional workers who were social workers and recreation workers in the military hospitals. Then the contingent that made up donut dollies amounted to about, I'm guessing, 90 people. I'll guess that was about that much. So I had responsibility for the upper half of South Vietnam, and I was one of the supervisors.
Okay.
So I had a chance to travel around to all of the units, called on the donut dollies when I could, and in the hospitals, and primarily with the service at military installations staff. Now that was mainly the staff staffed by males, but there were some females there, and also there were a few males in the service in the other units, but not in the donut dollies. The thing I guess to remember, aside from the donut dollies, were the emergency communications and the counseling and so forth. When you imagine that with over 500,000 troops there at that time, we were receiving about 1,100 emergency messages on average every day. And that was the business aside from recreation.
Yeah. Aside from recreation. Nars, thank you so much for that reminder, because actually Alice Voitko was telling me before we went live here on the Zoom side that was her job. Her second tour was to be a part of those emergency communications. Nars, I would imagine that would be a very stressful and difficult and heartbreaking job to break bad news to people sometimes, to families.
Yeah. Yes, I guess so. Of course, we had the difficulties in Vietnam of trying to get to the people. And I recall just a brief incident where one of the old longtime volunteers in one of the chapters said she would never give another dime to the Red Cross because her son, who was in Vietnam, who was a Navy corpsman, medical corpsman, did not get word about the birth of a child that he had. And the reason was because he was a Navy medic assigned to the Marines, and they were moving around constantly.
Right.
And he never left word with the Red Cross as to how he might be able to be contacted, which would have been helpful. But that resulted in a congressional inquiry, and I had to spend about 2 weeks of my time running that down to find out where he was. The
Ooh.
military didn't even know, but eventually we found him, and eventually things got straightened out, and eventually his mother became happy and a donor again.
Oh, how about that? Alice, what was that job like for you to have to do those emergency communications?
It was certainly not the easiest part of it, but the salvation was, to my sanity, was that I was able to do something to expedite the situation. I got to the point where I would call up and usually the first shirt or the company commander and say, send me John Jones, pack him up, cut his orders, don't say anything, and don't let him drive.
Ooh.
Because I didn't want him on the road after I told him what was going on. And we had a real good system. They knew if I was on the phone saying pack him up, they were cutting orders and getting him over to Benoit, I guess it was at those days. And that mitigated the intensity of the situation, was to be able to be part of the solution.
Right, right. Now you had the opportunity also to pass along happy news, like Nars was saying about, a child is born, that kind of thing.
Oh, sure. We greatly looked forward to those. We looked forward to those messages because generally people were very happy to hear them.
Except for the guy who had been in Vietnam for 13 months.
He was a tad bit surprised.
That wasn't very good news.
Sorry, fella, but legally, yeah, what am I going to tell you?
Todd, Doris has her hand raised.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Sometimes I get to laughing. Yes,
on
Doris.
that same line, I was doing research for a speech about that, and a former Red Cross service to military installations shared the story about how he delivered a birth notice to I believe it was a soldier. I don't remember the branch of service, and I'm not going to pick on Marines.
Why not?
And announced that he had a baby, and lo and behold, about 2 weeks later, another notice came that he had another baby, but it was a different woman. So there were lighter moments as well.
Oh, Lord.
And the chat, the messages here in the chat are just absolutely wonderful. And I love Ellie, not my Ellie, another Ellie, kind of spotted Bat Mirtha here, who was a Loach pilot, a helicopter pilot in Vietnam, who got shot in the butt. I think that's overshare, Ellie. Let's see. Loach. That's how she remembers you, Bat. Can you unmute yourself? You need to answer to this.
I'm just not sure I want to.
Well, you were, I guess, so you met Ellie, who was a donut dolly, at the 94th EVAC hospital?
No, actually, I met her about, I guess, maybe 4 months before. She was the donut dolly with the 3-foot-long red hair and the beautiful eyes prancing through our unit area in the afternoon. And she met me with my butt sticking up in the air at the 94th EVAC hospital in Benoit.
That's so great. That's so great.
The one story that I'll tell you real quickly is when we knew she was our donut dolly, and she for a bunch of canine dog handlers and for B Troop 1st of the 9th Cavalry, of which I was the scout platoon leader. And when she was in the area, I mean, everything would kind of stop as Ellie came through. When it came time, she actually had an issue with her arm, medical issue, and she was over in the 94th EVAC hospital herself. And what happened was there was an ambush, I guess a couple of days after she got there, and I ended up in the hospital, and I didn't know she was there, and she didn't know I was there. And then the day after that, our ground platoon was attacked, ambushed, and 2 people were killed. And I was in the hospital, and they dragged in the platoon leader, shot full of holes, and Ellie and I both spotted him and each other at the same time. So she and I basically spent the next 10 days helping take care of him before he was back to the States. But when she first found me there, she asked all she saw was me and a lot of bandages and a lot of that stuff. And she said to me, do you want me to call your wife? And I said, well, I was kind of half doped up at the time. I said, yeah, call her. And my wife, being an easily frightened American girl, Ellie called her up. Now, the wounds that I received, fortunately for me, they had gotten everything under control, and I was more or less in pretty good shape. But Ellie called my wife in the States and told her, she didn't know, I guess she didn't know what to say exactly. So my wife said, well, how is he? And she said to her, well, he's responding to treatment, which of course means that he's at death's door.
Yeah.
But we might be able to save him. That from a butt wound. And so my wife called the Red Cross from another location, and people were calling in to find out if I was still alive. And I was assuring them that I was at one level or another. So it was an interesting afternoon.
Oh boy. So Ellie, what's your memory of that incident?
He's not talking.
No, she's talking. She's trying to unmute. Here, I'll ask you to unmute, Ellie. Oh,
I
there you go.
got it. I found it. I have absolutely no recollection of ever making a phone call to his wife, Barbara. And I absolutely have
But she knows her first name.
a lot of memories are just in a shoebox in the back of the closet that don't come out. And he remembers the platoon guy that was shot up, and Bat has told me stories about what I did, and I have absolutely no recollection of it. And I was not on drugs. So,
and why don't you think you remember?
I just don't remember the traumatic times. I visited orphanages and have pictures of the dust of the earth is what the children of soldiers that had left their children behind maybe didn't even know that they had them. And I just wanted to pack up all those kids. And I went to the amnesty wards. We had a run to the amnesty wards where fellows could turn themselves in who were on drugs. And I just remember them batting their heads on a padded cell. And I never saw body bags stacked up like cordwood or anything that some of the donut dollies still have got PTSD from. I just would prefer to, oh my gosh, there I am.
There you are. Bat's holding up a picture of you. Yeah.
Me, I still have that boonie hat that was given to me by the unit director, Linda Hansen. And I just want you to know that Bat has been a friend for all these years, since 1971. And he introduced me to my husband.
Another pilot, right? Helicopter pilot.
He is a Cobra pilot, and I'll let him say hi. He's the veteran.
You're the veteran. And what is your name?
Yeah, I'm Mike Uzelak.
Okay, Mike Uzelak. Okay. And you were a Cobra pilot in Vietnam.
I was, yes. And Bat and I, our careers crossed each other for 20 years. And so we became great friends. And then after my wife passed away, a few years later, he says, "You ought to call this Ellie. You call Ellie." And I didn't call her. She was in Florida and I was in California. And he kept checking with me. "Did you call her yet? Did you call her yet?" And I finally called her, and that started a path.
Oh, is that great? What a great story. Oh my gosh. And all of you have stories, I know. I do want to ask, we have way more stories here in the Zoom room that we could cover this afternoon, this evening. I do want to ask again, is Andy Niggett in the room? If you are, please speak up. And also if Harry Van Riper, Larry Guggens, I saw your message. I think you're right. I think Harry was in. Harry Van Riper, if you're here, please do speak up, because I do want to show that picture of that donut dolly that you saw in your recovery, and you've been trying to track her down. I think her name was Barbara. I could share that picture. I could share that picture even if you aren't here, Harry, but if you do show up, let me know. And same with you, Andy Niggett. I may not be able to recognize you here without your name. Nancy Warner.
Yes, sir.
Are you too shy to turn on your camera?
I'm trying to, I hit something by mistake. So I don't know.
Okay. Let me see here. I think we can, well, I don't know. No, I can't. Okay. Maybe you just covered up the camera.
I'm just as cute as I was at 23 in Vietnam.
You know what, Nancy, I could tell you right now, you didn't turn off your camera. The camera is covered. It's covered. So if that helps you at all. And I was just going to, and if you, there you are. You are just as cute as you were. Yeah, you're right. And I have a picture of you here.
Oh,
again.
no.
Yes. Is that you?
Yes, look at her. Oh, she was so young.
She was so young. What would you tell her? Like, if you could go back in time before she went over to Vietnam, to give her any advice, or what would you tell her?
That she had no idea how life-defining that year was going to be for her.
Right.
That, I remember a lot of it as if it happened yesterday. And just as Ellie said, there's a lot of it I have forgotten. But the experiences I had in that year were life-defining. I'd never spent a holiday away from my family. I come from a big Italian family. And yet I spent the best Christmas of my life in Vietnam because I learned what it was really all about. Those kinds of things. Those are life-defining, incredibly important memories. And when I went to Vietnam, I used to tell people I went to Vietnam with the Red Cross because I didn't want to tell my grandchildren I dated 4 Fs when I was in college. So, it was a lark. I was interested in doing the program. I wanted to travel, and it was all of those superficial things that got me there. And it was all the real stuff that happened that stuck with me.
And we should remind people that to be a donut dolly in Vietnam, you had to be 21 years old. You had to be female, so I would have been out. And you had to be a college graduate, correct?
Correct.
And you couldn't be married.
You couldn't be married, and they actually would interview. I remember this being interviewed fairly seriously about whether I had a boyfriend or a relationship back home. They really wanted you, knowing they knew what the stresses were going to be over there, and they did not want you to have someone pulling you home.
Yeah.
Boyfriend wanting you to come home and writing you letters to get you to come home, because they were investing a lot of time and effort and money in getting you over there, and they wanted you to be able to fulfill your year. So if you had a boyfriend or you were thinking about getting engaged, at least in my case, I don't know, because everybody was interviewed by different people. But the woman that was talking to me, she was hell bent on making sure that there wasn't going to be something trying to draw me home.
Right. So they really screened you well. Here you are with the 1st Infantry Division at Firebase Gila. Gala. You're playing some kind of game here, I take it?
Yes. And actually, I remember this day well because Mary Louise Dowling, our Donut Six, the woman who headed up the program out of Washington, had come to Vietnam to visit. And she and Quinn Smith was the head of the program in Saigon, had come to Lai Khe, where I was stationed, and wanted to come out to the field with us. And so my dear friend Leah O'Leary, who just passed away a month ago, and I were chosen to program with Mary Louise and Quinn Smith tagging along with us. So this was that day. I think Leah's back. You can't see her real well in the background, but yeah. Oh, yep, the ammo dump.
Is this the ammo dump at Freedom Hill?
Yes.
Okay. The one that exploded?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
I love this picture.
Yes, this rock, I know it probably has a name or something, but somebody was always painting it with stuff. And Fubar, the other donut, many of you will remember that meant fucked up beyond all recognition.
Hey, this is a family show, Nancy.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And I love somebody wrote airborne sucks. Oh my gosh.
I said it was.
I love that. I love that.
It was different. So
yeah.
Whatever that day. And we did a radio show at AFVN. And so this was on the way up to the radio station.
Oh, that's so interesting. I wonder if anybody else in our group, in our Veterans Breakfast Club group, remembers that painted rock up on
if you went up and down the road on Monkey Mountain, you actually you have to go by it. I mean,
you would absolutely remember it. I'm going to save this picture and share it at future events. And I love this picture. Oh gosh.
Yeah, sweet. Very, very sweet. These were guys sent out to, deal with civilians in the villages, bringing them some basic health care and so on and so forth. And we happened to be out programming to a group out there and ran into them, and I couldn't resist that beautiful little baby.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Nancy, how did this shape your life? How did this experience kind of shape or change your life? I ask very easy questions here.
Yeah, you do. Right. I think I learned to meet people where they are without a prejudgment of, that was something new at 22, everything new to you, for God's sake. I mean,
yeah.
Every sort of experience gives you some new thing. And I think that was one of the things I learned, because we were programming to people from all over the country. I mean, from, the good old boys from the gas station in the center of town to, brainy college graduates with multiple degrees. I mean, it was all over the map.
Right.
And I think I might have, as my younger self, maybe not been quite so open to all those different kinds of people. Not that I wouldn't have been friendly or anything, but what I'm saying, it's just sort of meeting them where they were and enjoying that experience. That I think there. Maybe I would have learned it anyway, but I'll attribute it to Vietnam.
Go ahead.
Also, empathizing with some incredibly difficult situations and circumstances that came up, trying to understand, even though we weren't experiencing the same things the guys were, trying to understand and read how they were feeling and responding to it appropriately, what I thought would have been appropriate. Those things were things I had never done before to that extent. So, I mean, I think I learned that from that experience in Vietnam.
One of you emailed me recently and said something like, you have no idea how bonded we are all with Vietnam veterans.
Yeah.
That we carry them around in our hearts every day.
Yeah.
I could hear that in your voice.
It's true. They are. I mean, I always tell people, I say, oh my God, that's so great what you did. You're so brave. And I said, oh no, I served next to heroes. I served with heroes, but I am not, that is not who I am. We didn't have to carry guns. We didn't have to, run around out in the mud and all that sort of thing. We weren't plucked out of our lives for a year and sent someplace we did not want to go, and then come home and be shamed and embarrassed and all. I mean, none of that happened to me to that extent. And, those were the heroes. Those guys who were sent to do a horrific job in a horrific environment were the real heroes. And I love every one of them. They're still my guys. And I think every one of us says that. They're our guys. And they always will be.
So moving. Another thing that you all are real pioneers, and I hear that too. I mean, you served in a different age. As I said, to my ears, Donut Dolly sounds a little demeaning, to the work that you did. You would protest that, and you're absolutely right. But, you were coming of age at a time in America when women really, had three options if they wanted a meaningful job. It was secretary, teacher, or nurse. And so women generally didn't go out and do the kind of things, put their lives on the line with the kind of service you did. And I want to just let everybody know, because many of you haven't joined our events before, that we have another pioneer, a woman pioneer with us. And Julia, I hate to do this to you, but I embarrass you every single time that you're on. This is Julia Parsons. She was a Navy wave in World War II. She did incredibly important work in decoding Enigma, the German military code, in the Shark Division at the Naval Communications Annex, where she would track the German U-boats in the North Atlantic. Julia is going to turn 100 years old on March 2nd.
Oh my God, you look wonderful, Julia. Congratulations. Thank you for your service.
We can't hear you, Julia. Let's see if you could unmute. And I wanted to let everybody know that we're having a birthday party for Julia on Zoom on March 2nd. And it's going to be BYOC, bring your own cake. We are going to deliver a cake to Julia, however. She said anything but chocolate. And and we're going to have Julia kind of share some stories about her life and her service, and just kind of celebrate that she's been with us. Julia, I think, are you still muted? Let me see. Oh no. Yeah, you're not muted, but it's not working. We can't hear you. Oh, yeah, I wonder what the problem is. Oh, sorry about that. Well, I just want to let people know that Julia Parsons is here with us. Thank you, Julia, for joining us again. And
Todd, she has headphones in. I wonder if that's the problem, because she doesn't usually have headphones in.
Oh, Julia, I bet that's it. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mary. That could be it. Julia, feel free to speak up if you take the headphones out, maybe. If you unplug them.
He has to disconnect them. Yeah.
If you unplug them from your device.
Can you hear me?
Hey, there we are.
Okay, but I can't hear myself.
Well, you can, after you're done talking, you could put the earbuds back in. I bet you find this interesting, hearing women talking about serving in Vietnam.
Yeah, and I envy them because they must have had terrific experiences, and we were not allowed to go overseas.
That's right.
And that's what we all wanted to do, of course. But,
you did want to. You would have gone overseas if you were allowed.
Oh, I would have. Everybody would have. Travel was part of it, and the experiences we had were great. Even in the States, it worked out well. But I'm glad to see that women, from the World War II thing on, I'm glad everybody was still volunteering and doing things overseas.
Yeah, I picked these Donut Dollies are kindred spirits of yours. They're kind of adventurous, young women like you were. And I think by 1945, Navy waves were allowed to serve in Hawaii and the Panama Canal zone. I'm not sure about Europe, though. Maybe after the war, Europe.
I don't know.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Julia. Thank you for joining us and being a part of it. Oh,
my
man.
pleasure.
How terrific. Harry Van Riper is not with us, correct? No. Oh, I see Ken Rozicki is with us, which is funny because I pointed out Ken last week. I asked Kelly if he wanted to interview a Vietnam dentist. And because of that, people must have seen it on Facebook. I got 3 messages from Vietnam dentists saying I was a dentist in Vietnam. So Ken, we decided we're going to do a whole program on dentists in Vietnam, including somebody who joined our breakfast yesterday, Sam Arnold. Very interesting story. So we're going to do a whole program on dentists in Vietnam, and that's all because of you, Ken. But I just do want to ask. Okay, Harry Van Riper is not with us, so I'm going to share this photo that Harry shared with me. And you should hear the story coming from Harry. Harry lost his left arm in Vietnam. He was a armored personnel carrier driver. It was hit by a Viet Cong rocket. He lost his arm right at the shoulder and almost lost his life. I mean, it's just amazing that he survived, but he did survive, and he woke up in an army hospital in Vietnam. And here's a picture of him sitting on the bed. He said, he woke up and saw this beautiful angelic face and figured he was either alive or he was in heaven. And it's just it. But he does say that the smile he has is he was so drugged up in this photo. But he said he at first, for many, many years, he thought that this was a nurse. And he said it was just a kind face. She had some kind words. She kind of sat with him and talked with him and kind of brought him slowly back into the world. And it was only much later, Harry said, that he learned that she was not a nurse, that she was a Red Cross donut dolly. And he's always wanted to just thank her, thank her for her service. And I think her name appears to be B. Flythe. Her last name would be Flythe. Flythe. The first name begins with a B, maybe Barbara, maybe Bernice. To Van Riper, best of luck. B. Flythe, ARC, Wilson Army Hospital, 16 September 1968. So this is another photo that I would love to share with you, Jenny Close, if you wanted to share it, or anybody here wanted to share it with their network, just to see if we could track down B. Flythe. If anybody has any ideas. Is that what you remember, Larry, the story?
Yeah, yes. And he tells it to say, without, how Harry is, that because of this young lady, it saved his life. And what he meant by it, not physically, I don't think, but made him fight to continue on, even though he had lost an arm in combat. And we all know that he, and I searched for a long time to try to help him find her from contacts. I'm Vietnam Veterans of America, a chapter in Pennsylvania, and I couldn't find anything. But yeah, he just wants to thank her for basically saving his life and making his life ability to continue.
Yeah, and he is not shy about that. You're absolutely right that she kind of helped bring him back, understand that his life was worth living. Yeah. And yeah, so
I believe he still is on that one that says iPhone, 640261. I think that's where he was.
Is that Harry?
Yeah, I think it is. And then he disappeared.
But, oh no, iPhone 640-261-8738 is Dan Vaughn.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, very disappointing.
All right.
Yeah, would much rather have Harry Van Riper than Dan Vaughn on, but we got Dan. You go with you go with what they give you. Yeah. So Harry couldn't make it, but let's see. I want to look in the chat to see if Mary Kuiper, you have a wonderful question. Why don't you ask it, Mary?
I'm a tour guide and do a lot of tours in DC, and I was just curious about the plaque that we saw last week in the photos for the Red Cross workers that died. And I know they're not on the wall, but is the plaque at the Red Cross headquarters there on 17th Street in DC?
Yes.
It is. Okay. And is that open to the public where I can walk sort of on the grounds and go see it?
Yes.
It is. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and I am going to introduce our youngest participant. Okay, James, iPad, you're next. But before James, I want Henry Shepke. Henry, could you join us? And I want to introduce people to you. This is Henry Shepke. He's 13 years old, lives in Madison, Wisconsin. He joins a lot of our events. He's an autograph collector. He collects autographs from veterans and others, and he expressed interest in collecting autographs from Red Cross volunteers, Donut Dollies, Red Cross personnel. I think that's a terrific idea, Henry. Is that what you had in mind? Would you like to get in contact with some of the Donut Dollies here and get their autographs?
Sure, that'd be really cool.
Okay, yeah, I'm glad you didn't say no. Yeah, it would be really cool. And Henry's collection of autographs is absolutely fascinating. He has some wonderful. He had got Jimmy Carter's autograph and George Shultz's autograph, and a lot of Medal of Honor recipients, and he would like to add Donut Dolly. So Henry, could you do this in the chat here on the Zoom side? Could you put first your email address in there, so that any of our Donut Dollies who want to contact you can do so, and also your website link so that people can check out your collection.
Sure, yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
The website in a while, but I recently got Bob Dole's signature.
You did get Bob Dole's signature. Mary, how about that? Mary's like best friends with Bob Dole, right?
I have kissed that man so many times. Keep the autograph, Henry. I get the smooches.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So yes, please do put that link there, Henry. That'd be terrific. And then I also, if any of you Red Cross veterans can't get the link in the chat, just email me. Oh, and Ellie, could you put my email in the chat? And okay, yeah, I'm going to pitch something. Number one, if you are not on our Veterans Breakfast Club email list, please do share your email with me, because I want to get in contact with you again. I would love to have you on, individually, as a group again. For example, we're going to do a program on the Tet Offensive. So some of you may have been in Vietnam during, or may have landed during the Tet Offensive. And would love to have you come on and share your stories. We'd love to have you come on anytime you can make it, and to any of our events. So please do share your email with me. I'll make sure you get our email updates and the links to all our virtual events. And then the second thing is we are going to start our full virtual schedule on Monday, February 1st with our first happy hour at 7 p.m. Eastern. And then we're going to do a program on Thursday night, and then we have a Wednesday morning program. Our Wednesday morning program is continuing in January. So we're on a kind of a skeleton program right now, a shortened program, but we're doing our event, our coffee hour, every Wednesday at 9 a.m. It's the same Zoom link that you use to get to this event. If you want to join us, we'd love to have you. Just show up, because next Wednesday we're going to continue telling some of the stories that we're discussing today. It's kind of like we sit around and we have a conversation for 90 minutes with coffee on Wednesday morning. Everybody is welcome to join us. You do not have to be a veteran to join us. I want to ask Rick Weber. I see Rick's here.
Rick, I apologize, Todd. I was like Harry. I had computer problems.
Okay, you had computer problems, and you misspelled your name, Rick Weber.
Yeah, that came up the other night. I don't know how that is. I don't understand that. I mean, I protect the innocent.
And I don't know if you were on you were 101st Airborne Division. I don't know if you were on the program. And Bob Dvorak, you'll be sensitive to this too, where we showed the painted rock in Da Nang, and somebody scrawled "Airborne sucks."
Well, everybody has an opinion.
Yeah, and some of them are wrong, right?
It was probably written by an airborne personnel.
Guy got washed out. What can I tell you? It had to be hey, let me check on my friends. It had to be a Marine, because they can't jump.
So Rick, I want to ask you, okay, you were a company commander in Vietnam. Did you run across Donut Dollies?
Yes, I did. Unfortunately, you may know the story. I think you had it last week.
George Slook shared some of it, and I think he will share
Well,
more.
my story is very tragic. I met a Donut Dolly on August 15th. And I was just coming back from an R&R and couple day R&R, and just happened to be at the Officers Club and at Coochie. Young lady came in for dinner, sat down at our table. We struck up a conversation. She happened to be from Ohio, just got there 2 weeks in Vietnam. Spent dinner, talked to her. That evening, 3 o'clock in the morning, someone killed her. You know, to this day, I lost a lot of people in Vietnam, but that's the hardest one, believe me. When these young ladies, 627 of them, Donut Dollies, come, volunteers, and they were terrific. So I only met 2 of them, and I met Jenny's friend Susan, who they went through training together. I met her with the 101st. And so yes, I every August 16th, which is 15 days after my wedding anniversary, I celebrate with her.
Oh.
Of all the people, and I've lost, a lot of friends, that one hurts the worst because she wasn't protected and they didn't do anything to protect her. I feel I'm going to break up.
Oh, Rick.
I mean,
oh boy.
And then here's the sad part. They interviewed me because I was the last man to see her. But fortunately, they already knew that it was the guy who did it. He was in civilian clothes, and I left the next morning to go back to Cambodia. So yeah, and I didn't know all the particulars because the MPs wouldn't tell you anything. And I mean I knew that there was she was killed. That's all I knew. I didn't know who did it. It took me years. And the sad but truth is, the gentleman, that's a bad term. The person who did that crime was found because he, I guess he was unstable, to say the least, but he was heavily drugged. So he was court-martialed, but put into psychiatric unit for I don't know how many years. Got out of the Army and did the same thing back in the States. I believe it was Wisconsin. He killed a guy, didn't kill a girl. But yeah, that's a tragic story. There's only three of those Donut Dollies that were killed in Vietnam. One of them, I believe, was a helicopter crash.
No.
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
It was, that was, one of the
Hannah?
women was in the unit that I was in. And she died by was a freak Jeep accident. And that
Okay.
was at our unit in Benoit. And the other one died but your story that you told is a tragic story. I would just like to say that memorial that was brought up earlier that is in the Red Cross garden, as we call it, has 5 names on it, 2 men and
Yes.
3 women.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for telling that story because I know about that, but I never heard anybody from the military side tell it. And I know that from our unit at Benoit, there were 9 of us women when Hannah Cruz died. And it was, well, it's just like losing your military friend that's next to you, and the other woman died about a year after Jenny did.
Right.
In
Yeah.
so
February.
You know the stories, but thank you so much for sharing that. I
No,
wanted to, it's important that people know that there are civilians too that
have things happen in those war situations. So thank
Well,
you.
No, it's basically, the fact that, she was there and you were there.
I'm still on, Mom.
Cannot speak enough volumes about, my favorite people in Vietnam were medics, doctors, and nurses. There's no question. So, I mean, I really didn't have much contact with the rear, fortunately. But yes, that is, and my friends who've been there know about that story, because I make sure that they know.
Yes, you have shared that at our events.
I mean, people don't realize they didn't get any credit at the wall. They should. There's no question about it. You get killed in the line of duty, and you volunteer to go. And I wasn't a volunteer. I was drafted. So, I mean, I have so much respect for these ladies. I wasn't there that long, maybe 3 months, but I realized that was, and the sad part is I don't know if you ladies had protection when you were out there, but you should have.
And I believe this is a picture of Jenny.
That's Jenny, yep.
Jenny Kirsch, who was killed in Vietnam. I want to go to Nars. He has his hand up, and then I want to go to George Sloop, because I know George has written about Jenny and knows a lot about the case. Hi, Nars.
I just want to say that it's too long a story to tell here now, but I was the person who identified the first death. The assistant field director with the Marines who was killed. His Jeep ran over a mine in the road. The second person is another long story, but with the Army, a rocket fell on the building that he was in and killed not only him, but a good number of people in that brigade at the high level. But that incident, the first incident with the Marines, was the first time any Red Cross worker had been killed in Vietnam. I just happened to be up there on an inspection trip, and the military, including the Marine commanders, were all in shock. And I just happened to be fortunate enough to be the person to take care of it administratively, so to speak.
George, what is you're an Army veteran. What is your connection to Jenny? Why are you so faithful to her memory?
Well, I was with the 4th Infantry in Pleiku and An-Khie, and I just happened to finish my tour in An-Khie when Jenny was arriving in Cu Chi. Okay. And what happens is Susan Bradshaw, her best friend, was stationed in An-Khie, and I found it on the internet. I wanted to write about the Red Cross girls, and I connected with Susan. It turns out this was this tremendous untold story. Best thing I can say is that I have a trilogy of 3 stories that is out on the web that kind of tells the whole story, from my meeting Susan, through her meeting Jenny in her story, and then the tragic death. So if you go out to warstories.com and just sort by my name, you'll see the 3 stories out there. And it was a quest. Once I heard what happened, we went everywhere from writing Susan's memoirs to where one day we got a tip and we found out where the murderer was. And he was out in a mental health facility out on the bay of Wisconsin, near Appleton. And one day, I connected with him, with the murderer, and took his story down for a number of weeks until fortunately, Susan kicked me in the butt and said, George, we got to go see him. I said, okay. So I talked to this person and I said, we want to come out and interview you. And he said, okay. And God, I think it was 2006, if I remember. It was February 2006. We went out to the Winnebago mental health facility and had a 3-hour interview with Ginny's murderer. And that was when I went in there, I told him I wanted to take notes. I wrote for 3 hours. I captured the whole story. He was a diagnosed schizophrenic, paranoid schizophrenic. He said he's only as good as his meds, and he was off meds when things happened. He was not diagnosed. So anyway, I can't tell you the whole story online. That wouldn't make sense, but go out to war-stories.com. It'll pop right up, and then go down to the authors, my name, and there's the 3 stories. So what happens? It was an avocation. I had to find the as far as I could go. I just kept following the leads, and that's how we did it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, George, I would love to have you again back on to kind of go through the full story. I think it's, obviously tragic and horrifying, but fascinating also, especially that you got to talk to the murderer. And also I want to hear more about your service in Vietnam, and that, we left so many stories on the darn table today. I have photographs lined up of Sam. Is Sam here? Jean, that's Sam. Rosemary and her book. Nancy, I know that you wrote a book, and I want to share the link to the book, right? Didn't you, Nancy? Nancy Warner? No?
No, Nancy Smoyer, I think you're talking about.
Nancy Smoyer. Okay, I got confused with my Nancy's.
My book, yeah.
Jenny, Sharon, I have pictures of you. I would love it, and have you, and especially Rosemary also wrote a fascinating book about Civil War women that I would love to have her talk about. Clearly, she feels a kinship with them. Boy, this is so much fun, and it's so interesting to me. Lori Pearl, good to see you again. Lori was a donut dolly who came on our Veterans Breakfast Club trip to Vietnam a year ago.
Mhm.
Hard to believe it was a year ago. We just squeezed in a trip to Vietnam before
Timing was
COVID-19.
perfect.
Timing was perfect.
And I wanted to let you know, I knew Ginny. We went in country together.
Oh no.
Yes. So it was,
Lori, one of the things that I've never been able to find is the day after she basically got to on K, she went out to a special forces camp, and I have a video of Ginny and another donut dolly coming down a watchtower and playing with the special ops guys.
mm-hmm.
And I've never known who that other donut was.
Uh-huh.
And that's been my one of the untold stories there. So if you keep your ears on that one, and I sent you that video, right, Todd? So
I could share it. I could share it on Zoom. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very compelling. And it's short. It's only about 45 seconds of Jenny's content. But these, again, these special forces guys found me. I didn't find them. And they said, we got a video that was shot back in 1970 on August 15th. And that was her day out in the field before she was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
Well, if it was someone that went in country with us, I would know. But if it was, she was at Cu Chi and I was somewhere else. So if it was one of the girls who was already there, who had gotten there earlier, I wouldn't probably, unless I happened to run across her some other place.
Well, if everybody could keep their eyes open for that, that's an untold story there. It would be no surprise if the trauma of that just shut down that donut dolly and to survive, blocked it out.
Todd?
Yes.
There were other donut dollies, and there were two other roommates that were staying in the bachelor's office or the women's officer section at that time, but they were removed. There were no donut dollies with the 25th for over 3 months. They absolutely evacuated them. The other question I have for you, George, and it's real brief. Do you still talk to Susan Bradshaw?
Not frequently enough, but I do.
Okay, because she was with 101st.
Yes, I remember she told me.
And we had a terrific cry one on August of 2014. They were recognized. The 101st was recognized for the 7th anniversary, and it was a big parade. And she was in the parade. And she cried.
Yeah, and Rick, my recollection is that Susan and I went to a reunion of yours down in Florida.
That was probably the summer. Well, I'm not sure. There's a summer one every year, George. I mean, every year.
It was the 101st, and she was, Susan is so hardy that she insisted that we sleep out in the pup tent in the pouring rain.
Yeah, she
on a hill.
I have to tell you, she was the only woman that walked in the parade. We had World War II.
So we were there.
We had World War II guys, and I have to tell you, and she's a pretty big girl. She's not, and we hit the first. It was at Fort Campbell, and there was a lot of different. There was 15,000 people on the parade stand. We were the parade. We didn't know that. 120 vets. And when we passed the first parade stand, and she just broke down. And she was sobbing and before we got to the end, everybody was crying. And she was
2014. Is that what you said?
2014. Yeah, it was the 100th anniversary. Well, it might not have been August. I think it was August because it was 90 some degrees. But it was the 70th anniversary of the 101st.
Okay.
It's the last time I saw her. But yeah, I mean, she still carries that. And she's the one that told me about your story.
Yeah.
Because I never knew the whole thing. I just knew that, and that was a shame.
And
So
Henry
I appreciate
Sheppy
that.
says here in the chat, 101st made up of tough people. And I thought I saw you, Ann C. Clark. I thought I saw you waving your hand.
Yes, because I believe Donna Jacobs was one of the witnesses to the trial of the guy who was
Donna Jacobs.
Yes. And she was there, and it traumatized her for a long time. And
Excellent.
I'm not sure what her married name is, but anyway, I hope that helps you.
Yes, please keep your ears and eyes open.
Wow, is this a wonderful? I'm sorry.
I just said hello to my sister.
Your sister?
Yes, I'm not sure if there were any other siblings that served.
Yes, there were Pam Pearson and her sister.
Okay, because we were not allowed to be in country at the same time, even though we could have overlapped. They wouldn't let me stay, but to pass on like my uniforms and so on to my sister.
And did you give your sister the nickname Dibby?
No, it's not authorized.
Okay.
Well, in a way,
it's kind of cute.
In a way I did, because I couldn't pronounce the name that had been given to her, which was an inappropriate name among the sailing people, the Navy.
Oh.
The name was Chippy or Chips, and Chippy in World War II was a loose lady. And my father said, no daughter of mine is going to be called Chippy.
And I couldn't pronounce Chippy. I said Dibby because I was all of maybe a year and a half. And my grandfather loved chipmunks, and my sister, when she was born, had great big full cheeks. And it reminded him of chipmunks. So that's where Chippy came from. And couldn't be pronounced by me, so it was Chippy.
Either way, it's not real flattering nickname there, Dibby. But
You don't like Dibby?
no, Dibby is great. Dibby is great.
Oh, my grandfather called me Chips till the day he died. I have letters. Dear Chips.
I want the contact information for all of you. I've never met you before, Dibby. I don't think I've met you, Ann.
My
Please
first time
do
out.
pass along. My email is todd@veteransbreakfastclub.com. I'm putting it in the chat right now. I want your contact information just because I want to let you know. I want to get you all back together again. I want to get us all back together again because we have so many stories we have left to tell. I know people are dropping off this call because we've gone, an hour and 45 minutes already, and it's just flown like that. It's like a family reunion. Chad has a story about a big rat that he wanted to share. We're going to have to get to that later. And then again, Rosemary and Sam and Jenny and Young, and we're just going to have you share stories next time. And I always love to have photos too. If you want to share, Sharon, I know you have a story to share, so please do send me photos. One more thing before we say goodbye. Bill Moran, you've been sitting here. I want to ask if you encountered any donut dollies during your time in Vietnam.
No, I never had the opportunity to do that.
Okay. So you were slogging it out without any.
Where we were, there usually was, just wasn't anybody around.
All right. All right. How about you, Clem Blazewick?
No, Todd, actually, I was one of the first 100,000 over there. I don't know if donut dollies were there in 1966.
Good.
Yes, they were.
They were.
They were? I was at the 9030 VAC hospital, and no, I didn't encounter any of them. I know I'm pretty sure we had some American Red Cross girls coming through all the time. I've seen them, but I never talked to any of them.
You guys are terrific. I salute all of you. Thank you so much for sharing your time, your wisdom, your experiences, your history with us. This is just absolutely wonderful. I will see you again soon. Take care, everybody. Enjoy your Thursday night, Rick.
You too, Todd.